Good afternoon, Sandy. Welcome to the Bookaholic podcast.
Hi, Deidre. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, so glad to have you here. And this is one I was going to say this is another first, but no, but it's still maybe like just the second books that we are featuring for kids. And
Yes.
so I'm glad to have you here.
Oh, good. Thank you. I'm excited to share it with you.
Well, your books, your characters are called The Good Eggs. And
Correct.
every time I see that written down or hear that, it just brings a smile to my face. It tickles my heart because my mother used that phrase during my childhood a lot, to describe a person, he or she is a good egg,
Oh, really?
and
Yeah.
yes, yes. And there was also the term he or she is a bad egg. Now, not
Right.
bad egg, but mischievous bad egg
Right.
was that. So I'm hearing that term. And
Oh,
so, and your good egg is very much, I would say, a great description of what she was meaning, to be a good egg. A good egg had a good heart,
yes.
and they were well meaning and well intentioned. And
Yes.
so, tell me what inspired you to write such a series called The Good Eggs for Children?
So I kind of what you were saying, like that phrase was, I wanted it to be about goodness. So I've always wanted to write a
Um,
children's book, but just takes a while to get there, right? With when you're life and working and children and everything. So finally, when I was ready, I wanted it to be meaningful and to be about goodness. So I kept throwing the word good around in my head, good, good. And that came up to me, good eggs. And so I thought, I'm
right.
going to make characters eggs and, go from there. And that's what I did. So I have it structured by 12 chapters, which is a dozen. And I have yeah. Each of the characters have egg in their name, like Meg
I
is
know, I saw that and I thought I was going to faint. That's so cute.
and Reggie and Peggy and, Gregory with 2 G's, and then Benedict, if you can guess, is
Oh,
the he's got troubles. So,
uh-oh,
friends try to help him. So
uh-oh.
each month, it starts, like, in September. And then they go back to school in September, and each month through August, a different virtue occurs, like understanding or forgiveness or gratitude or generosity. And there's 12 in all, one for each month. And just a kid
Yeah.
situation occurs, and they learn from that. So you see them
Yes.
go through a year in their life. But I wasn't done
Wow.
yet. I
Yeah.
I love the
Yeah.
characters so much. Yeah, I wanted to write a couple more books.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, we will get to that, broach that area.
Okay.
But my children had the privilege of going to a private school when they were younger.
Yeah.
And that school not only taught them, of course, the basics, math and science and reading and all these things, but they were about good citizenship. And
Mhm.
my sons already had a great basis here at home, but their school really instilled that. And until today, we see that the kids that grew, now they're the people I'm thinking of are now young adults.
Right.
And, they all have that basic good community, well intentioned, a good
Mhm.
citizenship instilled in them. They tend to come from good families in the first place. And then with school, really corroborating what they're learning at home, it just really works. And I just see your book series as a side by side to any school that is teaching good citizenship as also part of not necessarily the curriculum, but it's there in the background is how what the school is representing and wants their students to be. So I think it's a fantastic thing. Do you
Thank you.
corroborate with these schools?
It comes under the social emotional learning category.
Oh,
So
okay.
there have been some schools that have purchased it for that purpose, which, I
Mhm.
would love more to do that because now,
Right.
what you just said, you hit the nail on the head. When they're younger,
Mhm.
to get that instilled in them, and then it just
Mhm.
becomes part of who they are as they grow, and they go,
Yes.
"Oh, I should be thinking about
Yes.
this, and through just everyday kid situations that they may encounter
Right.
themselves, they
Right.
can incorporate that type of thinking into their person, and it would just
Mhm.
be natural when they're an adult, you know?
Yes, yes.
That's
And
my
I mentioned a private school, but, also it's definitely needed for those children that are not in a good school district,
right,
that may
right.
not have that support at home.
Yeah,
It would be wonderful for them to come to school and see, they'll learn about these different virtues and say, well, you know what? That's not going on at my home. And when I do this virtue, it makes me feel good. And
right,
what is maybe at home makes me feel bad. And, that would help a lot of children that's in those categories as
correct,
well,
correct.
pick up those virtues.
And I have donated multiple sets of books to underserved schools. So,
Oh,
here in
wonderful.
our Detroit area, yeah. So,
Yes. Oh,
they wouldn't be able
wonderful.
to afford to purchase them. So what I used to do was when one school would buy them, I would donate another set to an underserved school. So that's
Right.
used to work. Now that I revamped all the artwork and I have new covers
Oh,
and I don't do the buy one, give one because it doesn't work anymore that way with the new logo and everything and with the nonprofit. So I can donate through the
okay.
nonprofit now. Yeah.
Right, 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 right. Wonderful. Well, let's lay the basis and the foundation. You wanted to write these books, but did you have any type of background supporting the books that you're writing?
I'm a teacher, so, and I'm a theology teacher, so, I have a
Mhm.
lot of background in that. I have a master's in, religious studies, so there's no religion in the books, but it's just
Right.
basically about being a good person, so they're palatable for anybody, any walk of life,
Yes.
anything at all. They can adapt it to
Yes.
their story. So, yes,
Right.
I have that kind of background. I did raise 3 kids myself, so that
Right.
also helps, and, I just
Yes.
went off of what I know, my life experience teaching school, how kids
Mhm.
operate, and, I went from
Yeah.
there. So, yeah, it's been a great joy.
I'm glad you did. We're glad you did. Now,
Thanks.
this is a series. So the
Yeah,
first eggs, it's the good eggs. It's a chapter book, and this is for ages 5 through 12.
yes. Mhm.
Okay,
So
and
the younger I was just gonna say the younger ones are gonna need some help. Obviously, I've had, like, 1st grade teachers read to their class, but, like, 3rd, 4th, 5th graders, they can read on their own. So it just
yes,
depends on
most
the reading
definitely.
level. Yeah.
Yes, and it does have well, it's a chapter book. That's
Yeah.
right. I was going to say picture book, but no, it's a chapter book. Okay, so
Yeah.
there's 12 chapters in the virtues, as you mentioned earlier, and rattle off for me those 12 virtues in that book.
Well, I have the book here, and the
Okay.
first one is understanding, and then it goes into forgiveness, and then gratitude, and then generosity, and then cooperation, love, acceptance, respect, responsibility, honesty, confidence, and manners. So those are now
Those are
there's so many others, but I couldn't write a book this big, so I had to narrow it
no.
down to 12. Yeah.
Well, I will say, Sandy, to you, and like you said, there's other virtues you could have written about. And I
Mm,
think had it been when I was in grade school, we might have talked about some other virtues. But I like some of the ones you mentioned because they're so much more applicable to today. Understanding. Understanding is usually never mentioned, but that is one of the gigantic things that's needed for people to feel seen and
yeah.
accepted and loved as understanding. And you mentioned another one. It was, my goodness, forgiveness. That's
Forgiveness.
another one. You learn that if you go to church, you
Right,
learn that in church, but a lot of people really still get it.
right.
And
It's
so for it
a
to
hard
be
one, it is a
in
hard one.
school,
Right.
it's a
Yeah.
hard one. It's hard. It's
Yeah,
hard.
it is.
It is difficult.
Right.
So I love the ones that you have in there
Thank
because
you.
there was one where I felt like if you were being bullied, there was one word in there, and I can't remember the later words that you mentioned, but I think everything is in there for what kids may be going through
Right.
today. Because, say, for an example, not saying that this didn't happen when I was a kid myself, but there's some kids now when you go to school, they have two dads or they have two moms, and navigating in that space. Uh, some people may be like, oh, you got two moms, you got two dads, and bully
Or
you
get
for
bullied.
that or make fun of
Really.
you for that.
Mm,
If you have that understanding
right,
component,
right.
that
And the
will help
acceptance.
everybody all the way around.
The acceptance chapter 2 is
Ex-
actually about,
Except, yes,
male, female, actually, that one is, but it's the same concept. So it's,
yes,
things that I thought kids could relate to, too.
yes.
So, yeah,
Yes, most definitely, most
yeah,
definitely. Now, your follow-up book is The Good Eggs Travel the World, and
right,
you have different countries and the good eggs in the community where they learn about community service. Well,
right.
let's go back to where they're traveling the world. Now, they're eggs, so they're pretty. Are they fragile or are they not, or how they
Um,
stay protected?
they're egg children, so they're living in a world of eggs. Everybody's an egg.
Yeah,
So,
everybody, okay.
everybody's an egg. But it does go
There's
on,
no
I say a cracked egg needs to be handled with care. So, it's like with Benedict, he's got some cracks, so he needs to be handled
yeah,
with. So, in that first book, in one of the chapters, they win a recycling contest. So the United
yeah.
Nations recognizes them and sends them on a trip around the world to study abroad and learn about diversity. So that's
Oh
book
my
2. And they go to
goodness.
10, it's a dozen chapters as well. So the first chapter is the journey begins. That's when they learn that they won this contest and they're going to go around the world. And then they go to 10
Yes.
countries. They go to
Okay.
Chile, they go to Zambia, they go to Australia, Japan, India, Egypt, Israel, Italy, Norway, and Scotland. So they go all around
Oh,
the world. And again, there were so many countries I could have chosen, but I kind of mapped out the world. And there's reasons for some of these that I chose. So
yeah,
learn customs and language and culture, and they meet
yeah.
little eggs from other countries and they develop relationships with them and they end up being pen pals with all of them. So yeah,
Ah,
it's and at the last chapter is the journey ends and they go back to the United Nations and they do a debriefing with them. And it
yes.
was great. They write this little poem about how everybody helped them and they realize that the world is full of good eggs, that people just want to be heard and understood and loved and appreciated and to live in peace. So
Oh,
that's what they learned
yeah.
here. Yeah.
Ah, that is so good. And
That
last
was
but
so
certainly
fun to
not
write. Yeah, it was so fun to write. I did a lot of research on that.
yes, but it
Yeah,
just sounds lovely and yet educational as
very
well.
much
Now, the
so.
good eggs in the community, they learn community service. Tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
So they come back from the world trip around the world, and this is the
Mhm.
third year in their lives, and it's called The Good Eggs in the Community. And this is a half a dozen chapters, so it's 6, but they're a little bit
Okay.
longer. And they
Okay.
learn, so the UN still makes them ambassadors, but in their own hometown. So they learn
Okay.
how to serve within a community. So they serve children with school supplies, they serve elders in an elder care center. They help animals who are in an animal rescue shelter. They go to a
Okay.
food bank for people who are getting like a meals program. They put on a
Yes.
health program for their town, and they go to a nature center and they learn about nature. So things that are incorporated into a community, they learn that. So it's 3 years in their lives. You see them grow and learn. And when
Yes.
I knew I was done after writing this third one, I cried at the end of this because I
Oh
like
my gosh.
I just knew they were done and I felt complete, like, they're good now, they're good, the eggs are good, yeah.
Oh
So,
my, that is so
yeah,
beautiful. I love it. I
it
absolutely love it.
it's been my joy. So now I'm working on the marketing of all of them, so Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, you've got these now tied into a nonprofit. So you have the goodeggs.org.
Yep.
Tell us about the nonprofit organization.
So once I was done with the books, I felt like I knew I wasn't going to write a fourth one about the eggs, but there was something more like pulling at me. And I said, I need to put these books into action. So that's what I did. I said, I'm going to start the Good Eggs Foundation and I'm going to help children, underserved children in our area. So that's what I'm about. So what I do, I base it like the book series. So once a month, because the book chapters go once a month, I egg an organization or family in need. I'll seek them out. Sometimes people will contact me and I'll say, what do you need, this month? And it's different every month. So I've done, there's a man here who builds beds for kids coming out of homelessness and he needed bedding for those beds. So I went and got a whole bunch
Oh,
of those
yeah.
bed in the bags and brought them. I said, you've been egged. And I gave him a whole bunch of bedding for the beds that he builds. I've done
Oh,
helped with math tutoring programs. I've helped with summer camps. There's a foster closet here. They needed baby monitors, so I got a bunch of those and I egged them. I've done bags for kids in hospitals. So it's different every month. And if you go on our website, you can see all the
yeah.
egging. Yeah.
Well, I'm here on the website. So where do I see the egging under foundation?
Yes. And then scroll down and it'll say, let's get egging. And you can see all of them. If you click on there's like a, picture box, you can click on them and they'll all come up.
Oh my gosh, I see it. Oh my
And
goodness.
there's arrows where you can
Wow.
see. I just put December up there. We did Starfish Family Services.
Oh wow. I just love it. I absolutely love it. Oh wow. And you gave diapers to a girl like me.
Yes.
Mission City,
Yeah.
the Mercy Education Project. This is absolutely wonderful. I mean,
That's
that you are giving of yourself and your talents to others. And it's certainly, you are definitely a good egg. I love it. I absolutely love it.
been
Now,
my joy.
how can people get involved in the Good Eggs Foundation?
So they can make a donation, first of all. That's always helpful because that goes right to the eggings. They can
Hmm.
purchase books because all the net proceeds from books go right to the foundation, which goes to the
Okay.
eggings. They can join our newsletter. They can share our social media posts. They can join. I have a parent blog that journeys through the books for parents on an adult level. So they can
Oh
join the
wow.
blog. Yep. I've got the books on Audible. So if they want to hear them, if they want, like, say they're in the car and they want to play with an episode for their kids, they can listen on
Hmm.
Audible. Um, yeah. So I also just had the first book made into a set of 12 videos. So
Oh.
yeah, and they just got picked up by the Michigan Learning Channel, which is an affiliate of PBS. So they just started
Yes.
airing this month, and it's been real exciting to see them. Yeah, so they can watch them live stream on the Michigan Learning Channel every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So
That
we're
sounds great, and
excited.
I
Yeah.
see this is spreading. I see
It
this is
is.
spreading like
It is.
wildfire.
My dream is I would love to work at this full time and, like, transition out of teaching and do this full
Yes,
time, get a salary at it.
right.
And I also
Yes,
have
yes,
visions of seeing Good Eggs live theater shows, like how they do Sesame Street Live, to do like Good Eggs
yes,
Live. I'll be there signing books and,
yes,
like
yes.
the first the
Well,
first 25 rows for kids, underserved kids who wouldn't be able to
yes,
afford to go. So, yeah, I have a
yes.
lot of ideas. So,
Wow,
spread the
we
word.
have a children's theater. It used to simply be called the Charlotte's I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina area. It used to be called the Charlotte Children's Theater around here, but now it's called Imagine On. And
Oh,
a, a very wealthy family uh, put money behind it, and it's named
wow,
after them and Imagine On. And
nice.
I can see something like that, what you were just speaking of, taking
Yeah,
place at children's theaters and that type of
Oh,
thing. It just,
completely.
it's gonna take a matter of,
Getting the word
getting
out.
some
Yeah.
you
So that's
know?
how people
So
can help too, just spreading the word and, getting it out there because I think once it catches, it's gonna take off. It's
I
already
think
started.
so.
Yeah. So it's exciting.
Wow, this is
Yeah,
yes, it's very exciting, and I just wanna give a, shout out to you for even letting this come to your mind and letting you even writing this down. We live in a world that has been very difficult, for the
mhm,
last few years with the
yeah.
pandemic. We have, racial strife. We right now have anti-Semitism that's rolling around in our country and across the world. They captured some people trying to overthrow the German government the other week. It's just been
Oh, I
very dark and disturbing. But this is the goodness and the light that's shining through. And I
yes.
appreciate you for letting that come through. So I
Thank
love it. I absolutely love it.
thank
And
you.
Sandy, we really appreciate you. And we're going to have your contact information in the podcast show notes, as
Excellent.
well as the description box on the
Okay.
YouTube channel so that people can buy the books, they can donate to your foundation and get involved. Sandy,
Oh,
thank
that'd
you
be
so much.
wonderful. Thank you, Deidre. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, we loved having you. Thank
Thanks.
you.